I'm Emily Mashak, and you are listening to Tuned into NoCo, Town Square Media show that lets you know what matters in NoCo. I'm talking today with Diana Elliot, the Principal Research Associate at the Urban Institute. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Emily. It's great to be here.
Of course. Now, we're here to talk about the benefits of youth apprenticeship programs in America. But before we get into that, for those who are unfamiliar, what is the Urban Institute?
The Urban Institute is a nonprofit. We're based in Washington, D.C., and we produce research for policymakers around a host of economic and social programs. So, one of those areas is workforce development and specifically apprenticeship. We do a lot of work looking at apprenticeship and thinking about solutions that make sense for accelerating people into really high paying, successful positions.
How did you get involved with the Institute, and what is your role there?
So I'm a senior researcher and I'm a sociologist by training. And so I came to Urban because I love that we really put evidence in the hands of policymakers. Our tagline is we elevate the debate. And I think it's terrific to sort of, have facts guide policy. And the facts on a lot of issues are really persuasive, including on apprenticeship. The evidence is there that this really works.
That is amazing. I'm sure it's been an eye-opening position for you looking at all of these factors.
Yeah, it's been great. Honestly, the best part of my job is meeting and talking to people like you, talking to apprentices, talking to employers who have made this a really successful match for finding talent and connecting people to great opportunities. So that's the part that I really enjoy.
Well, we enjoy having you here too, so that we're glad you're here today. And now the Urban Institute is also launching a youth apprenticeship intermediary project. It's like that's a
That's
mouthful, but I got it out. For those who aren't sure what this is, can you explain to me what the program is about?
Sure things. Yeah. So we have an award from the Department of Labor, and it's basically to expand youth apprenticeships across the country. It's a 5-year effort. We're involved in this. A couple of other organizations are involved in this. And it's really to raise awareness about youth apprenticeships and also to start programs and to facilitate programs in communities across the country. So we have high schools who are starting youth apprenticeship programs, states who are launching these efforts. We work with great folks in Colorado, like CareerWise Colorado, who are doing this. So it's really been a fantastic effort to just kind of raise awareness and also just make more apprenticeships happen in this country.
hmm What is an apprenticeship like? Is it basically an internship, or how is that different?
Yeah, it's a little bit different than an internship. I think that's a really common misconception, actually, is people hear apprenticeship and they think, oh, it's just a short term, unpaid position. But in fact, an apprenticeship is a long term commitment. Employers are hiring someone to come on board, they're hiring them for their potential, and they're paying them. I've talked to apprentices who are at the age of 16 and 17 are getting full benefits from their employer. So it's really a terrific opportunity. And they're hired for their potential because, these students have so much to offer. They have energy, enthusiasm. They're really eager to learn about careers and to learn about sort of pathways that they're interested in pursuing. It's really exciting both for the apprentice and for the organization. And organizations see a lot of productivity from these apprentices right from the start. So it's a terrific win win situation. And the apprentices often stay on board and are among the most loyal and sort of productive employees that you'll find at any organization.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Can you walk me through the process of what it's like to establish an apprenticeship program in terms of both being a participant and an employer? What is that process like?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for an employer, for example, it starts with saying, okay, I'd like to hire an apprentice. What would that occupation be? Do I need an accountant? Do I need, at Urban Institute, we're thinking about hiring one as well. Might be an operations apprentice. So we're trying, it's getting the employer to think about what's that role, that pinch point that we feel where we could take on a youth apprentice and train them into that role for an apprentice. And so from that point forward, I should continue on. There's some paperwork that would have to be done. We're of the mind that people should register their programs either with the state or with the federal government, because it conveys a lot of benefits to the employer, namely funding. You can get a lot of these positions. You can get some heavy funding for training and other mentoring opportunities on the job. So it's a great deal for employers. In terms of an apprentice, they would have to find one of these opportunities, which, as high schools and other organizations increasingly start offering youth apprenticeships, it would be a matter of connecting with those organizations, hearing about different opportunities from employers, and deciding where they wanted to apply and submit a resume. So it's very exciting. It's not unlike any other sort of hiring situation you might find, but it's a little bit more structured because we're talking about a formal program where you're bringing youth on board and employing them in your organization.
hmm Now, you mentioned some of the general benefits of apprenticeship earlier, but do you have any specific stories of how you've seen the youth be impacted by a program like this?
Yeah, we interviewed a really wonderful apprentice in Colorado. Her name is Monique Lane, and she was hired by Pinnacle Assurance when she was just about to enter her junior year in high school. And Monique was drawn to apprenticeship because she could get an associate's degree paid for in part by the Denver public school system and in part by her employer. She could earn money, which was really important to her, and she could figure out if accounting, something she was really interested in, was the career that she wanted to do. And so she signed up for this program. She finished her 3 year apprenticeship. She came out with an associate's degree paid for by these organizations. She had a great paying job. And now she knows she wants to pursue accounting full time and she wants to find additional opportunities as an accountant. So I think that's just a terrific example of how we can set up students for real success, right? High school, these programs, when offered in high school, can really launch young people onto really great career tracks and set them up with work experience and degrees to get those positions.
That is awesome. Are there challenges that come with getting involved in programs like this? And if there are, how can they be overcome?
Yeah. A big one is transportation. So we know that for some students, right, they don't have access to public transportation, so they're reliant on having a car. Often, we heard this when we talked to folks in Elkhart, Indiana. Often, the first couple of paychecks that the apprentice would earn would go towards buying their first car. And in the interim, the program had to figure out how to get those students to their apprenticeship opportunities. In the case of Elkhart, Indiana, they tapped into the local school buses that were making their routes and figured out how to get those students on the right routes. But that is presented as a really big challenge. I'd say another challenge that we hear is, you have parents or teachers who may not fully understand apprenticeship, and they might think, this sounds too good to be true. If you're a parent, is this really what it's cut out to be? Will my child, my student, really be able to balance school and work? And I think that is a challenge that schools and teachers and students have to figure out. But it's successful in most cases. So it's really worth investigating and figuring out alternative schedules for schooling and figuring out how to best let students have these opportunities.
Right. And I know that you said students definitely have to look for opportunities on their own, but in general, how can the Urban Institute help aid participants, whether they are students or employers, through these programs, specifically in Colorado?
Yeah. If you're an employer and this sounds great to you, let us know. We're starting up programs right now in Iowa, in Tennessee, and it's really terrific. Like, we'd be happy to help you fill out the paperwork. We'd be happy to connect you with some incentive money. So do reach out to the Urban Institute and find us there. If you're a student and you're interested, I'd say the first place to start is right in your local community. See if this is something that your school is interested in. If it doesn't have a program already, talk to your guidance counselor. Present this idea because it's a terrific way to figure out, get some career experience and figure out, is this something that I'd like to take on? Is this something that I want to do later on, maybe in college or as a career? It's just a wonderful pathway for people.
Definitely. I love that you mentioned local too. We're all about local here in Northern Colorado. So this sounds like a great way to not only boost the career of a local younger student, but also the local economy and getting everything involved in that area. That's awesome.
Absolutely. We hear this from colleagues where, for example, we have colleagues in Wisconsin who have a really robust youth apprenticeship program. And they find that it's the local mom and pop businesses who have become really huge supporters and champions of youth apprenticeship because this is often how they get their workforce, right? If you're a small manufacturer and most of your team is set to retire in the next 10 years, this is a great way to bring some young, fresh, people into the organization who can learn from those people who are about to retire out. So you don't lose that institutional knowledge.
Definitely. How can people find more information about these programs from the Urban Institute?
Yeah, come to our website, Urban Institute. You just Google in Urban Institute Youth Apprenticeship, and you'll find a host of information on our new website. Are happy. We'll list contact information there. We're happy to pick up the phone. You can go ahead and email us, and we're more than happy to jump on the phone, talk to you about this, and explain to you the benefits as well as some of the challenges. And hopefully, we have some folks out there listening who are interested in doing this. It's really a terrific way to solve a lot of the talent pipeline issues that we see.
Hmm. Can you describe those issues a little bit for me? What have you seen in
Sure. Sure. Yeah. So one of the talent pipeline issues is that retirement factor, right? So we know that there's folks in various industries where the median age of those workers is getting close to retirement. So for example, the insurance industry is one of those industries where people are approaching retirement age, and you need to have younger people coming into your organizations to learn the business, so to speak. Another area is advanced manufacturing. We know that there's a lot of sort of workers in advanced manufacturing who will be retiring soon as well. So that's a really pressing need there. And I think some of the other labor market challenges include, people aren't necessarily coming out of schools with all of the right skills to be employable right on the job. So why not hire somebody with a little bit of those skills and a whole lot of potential and train them on the job in the way that you as an organization, as an employer, would like to see that person trained. That's a whole lot of putting a lot of power back in your hands, and a great way to offer a lot of opportunity to a young person who might not know about your organization, or who might not know about these positions, might not consider them unless they actually work in them and see what it's like firsthand.
Yes, such a good resource, especially at that age when students are trying to figure out what they want to do with their careers. In general,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. In general, what else would you like listeners to know about either the apprenticeship program or the Urban Institute in general?
Sure. Well, in terms of the apprenticeship program, I think one of the other things, and I'll say this as a parent of a high school student, is that parents are very nervous that maybe an apprenticeship won't lead to a college degree. But we've seen time and time again that an apprenticeship, and this is definitely the case in Europe, where apprenticeship is much more common. Apprenticeship is just sort of a stepping stone along the way in many cases, right? Many people go on to college, they'll get a college degree, and often they'll do a lot better in college because they've had some of that work experience first, and they know a little bit more about what they want to do when they get to college. Another great example for parents here is that if your child has an apprenticeship, a lot of times some of those college courses will be paid for by the employer. If they bring on a youth apprentice and see incredible potential in that person and want them to become a full-time employee after the apprenticeship, then a lot of times those college courses and that degree will be paid for by the employer. So it's really a terrific opportunity, especially as parents are looking at the high cost of college and really sort of worried about the future for their children.
I gotcha. Well, thank you so much, Diana, for taking the time to talk to me today. It was great to learn about, and thank you for letting us share this information with the public.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks again to Diana Elliot, the Principal Research Associate at the Urban Institute. To learn more, visit urban.org.